So I was 20 years old on a flight to Denver, and a flight attendant is walking down the aisle handing out a pamphlet for American Airlines credit card. It has big bold letters saying 60,000 miles, first year free. And I'm sitting there thinking 60,000 miles means I can fly 60,000 actual miles. So yeah, I signed up before we landed. The card taught me how credit cards actually work the expensive way though. So today I made the video I wish someone had shown me before that flight. Because here is everything I got wrong in that one decision. I thought 60,000 miles meant distant, and it definitely doesn't. Airline miles are a reward currency. They are not actual miles. I read a $0 annual fee and stopped reading there. The fee was only waived for the first year actually, and then it went up to $95. And also, I treated my new credit limit like extra money. Like getting approved meant I could actually afford things that I couldn't. And honestly, credit cards were never the problem. The problem is using them without a system, without understanding how they actually function, because the right first credit card can help you build credit, earn rewards, and set yourself up for better financial opportunities later. But the wrong first card or the wrong mindset can quietly put you in a hole before you even realize what happened. So I'm gonna walk you through the exact first credit card I would personally choose today, which ones I would definitely avoid, and what to do if you can't get approved. And the rules I wish I followed from day one. And just to be clear, there are no referral links for these cards in the video. When someone is brand new to credit cards, I don't want my recommendation to have a commission attached to it. I use affiliate links in other videos, but a beginner video should be held to a different standard. Because your first credit card should not be a trap. It should be a foundation to build on. So if this video does help you out, all I ask in return is a simple like and subscribe. Now, before I tell you the card I would pick, I want to explain what your first credit card should actually do, because beginners usually focus on the wrong things. They ask which card gives you the most points, or which one has the biggest welcome bonus, or which one gets me access to airport lounges. And I get why people ask that, because that's the exciting part about credit cards. But your first credit card should not be exciting at all. Your first credit card should be boring in the best way possible. It should have a $0 annual fee. It should be simple to use. It should be realistic to get approved for, and it should help you build a positive credit history. And ideally, it should be something you can open for years. And that last part matters, because one of the biggest mistakes people make is getting a bad first credit card, realizing that later that it has fees or terrible benefits, and then wanting to close it. But closing a card that early in your credit journey can actually hurt you. Your length of credit history makes 15% of your FICO score. So if your first card is something you can keep open for years, that can work in your favor, but close it early and it dings your credit. So I would much rather start with a simple, no annual fee card that I can keep long term, instead of chasing something flashy that I might not fully understand yet and regret later. And that brings me to the card I would start with if I were building credit from zero today. For me, it would be the Chase Freedom Rise. The Chase Freedom Rise is a great starter card. First, it has no annual fee. Second, it earns simple cash back. You get 1.5% cash back on everyday purchases, and a nice bump to 3% for dining. Nothing complicated, no transfer partners, no airline charts, no monthly credits you have to remember to use. Just use the card responsible, pay it off, and build credit history. Plus, if you turn on auto payments, Chase gives you a $25 statement credit. Now, I know that's not life-changing money, but it's a $0 annual fee card, so to me, this is a big win. And third, this is the part I really like. It gets you in the door with Chase. That actually matters a lot, because Chase has one of the strongest credit card ecosystems. And those cashback points you're earning can be transferred to flights and hotels in the future if you ever decide to open the Sapphire Preferred or Reserve card. So I don't look at the Freedom Rise as the final destination. It's just step one of the ladder. You start with the Freedom Rise. Then once your credit profile is stronger, you move into something like the Freedom Unlimited or the Freedom Flex. Then if travel eventually makes sense for you, maybe you look at the Sapphire Preferred. Then the last stop of the ladder is the Sapphire Reserve or even Chase business cards. Now you don't need to worry about those cards right now. I'm only showing you the ladder because I want you to understand why the first step matters. The Freedom Rise is not the dream card. It's the card that can help you start building toward the better options later. But for now, the goal is simple. Start clean and start small. Now, one thing you should know is that Chase says having at least $250 in the Chase checking or savings account can increase your chances of getting approved. That doesn't mean approval is guaranteed. No credit card approval is ever guaranteed. But if you are serious about starting with Chase, that is something I would look into before applying. And again, this is why I like this for a beginner strategy. You're not just randomly applying for a card, you're building a relationship with a bank that has cards you might want later. That is a much smarter first move than getting some random store credit card at checkout just because they offered you 20% off a pair of shoes. And that brings me to one of the biggest things I would avoid. I would be very careful with store cards as a first credit card. I'm not saying every store card is evil, but I don't love them as a starting point because a lot of beginners get offered these cards not even realizing it's an actual credit card. You're standing in line, buying clothes, buying furniture, buying something just normal, and then a cashier says, "Do you want to save some money today?" by opening a card. And when you're young and brand new to credit, that can sound like a good deal, but in reality, you may be opening a card with limited use cases, high interest, and very little long-term value. Also, I know most of you have heard about the Amex Gold Card and Platinum Card, but if we're talking about someone starting from zero, I actually think Amex is one of the least beginner-friendly ecosystems to start with. And I'm not saying that because the cards are bad. I actually own 3 Amex cards currently and use them for amazing travel experiences. These Amex cards come with high annual fees, more complicated credits, and benefits that only make sense if you already know how to use them. And unlike the Chase Freedom Rise, Amex's no annual fee cashback card doesn't allow you to transfer points to partners even in the future if you have a gold or platinum card. Lastly, it's probably safe to assume you'll not get approved for Amex cards without any credit in the first place. But that leads me to the next part of what happens if you apply for the Chase Freedom Rise and you don't get approved. That doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't mean you'll never get a credit card. It just means you may need to start with a secured credit card instead. And this is where a lot of people get confused. So let's make it simple. Most credit cards people talk about are the unsecured credit cards. And that just means the bank approves you for a credit limit without requiring a security deposit. So if you get approved for a $1,000 credit limit, the bank is trusting you with a $1,000 credit line. A secured credit card is different. With a secured card, you put down a refundable security deposit. That deposit often becomes your credit limit. So if you put down $200, you may get a $200 credit limit. But here's the important part. That deposit is not how you pay your bill. You still have to use the card like normal and pay the bill like normal. The deposit is there to lower the risk for the bank, and that's why secured cards are usually easier to get approved for if you have no credit, thin credit, or rebuilding your credit. And a secured card is not embarrassing, and it's not a failure, it's just a starting point. Think of it like the bank saying, "We don't know you yet, just give us a deposit first." And then your job is to prove that you can use the credit responsibly. So if I couldn't get approved for a normal starter card, I would look for a secured card with no annual fee, a refundable deposit, and a clear path to graduate to an unsecured card later. The Discover It secured card has historically been one of the better known options in this category. Now you always need to check what is actually available when you're applying because card products can change often, but the idea is what matters here. If you can't start with an unsecured card, start secured, follow the same 3 rules I'm going to give you in a minute, and then eventually you may be able to graduate to an unsecured card and get your deposit back. The goal is not to stay on the secured card forever. The goal is to use it as a bridge. You need to learn the basics first, learn how statement balances work, how autopay works, how credit utilization works, and how annual fees work. and you need to learn that points and miles are not magic. That was the mistake I made when I was younger. Because if you can't manage a no annual fee starter card correctly, a premium card with a huge annual fee is going to be 10 times worse, and trust me, I am the living proof. So once you obtain that first card, there are 3 rules I would follow from day 1. So rule number 1 is never treat your credit limit like money you have. This is going to be probably the biggest mindset shift. If the bank gives you a $1,000 credit limit, that does not mean you have $1,000 to spend. It means the bank is allowing you to borrow up to $1,000, and that's very different. The way I would use your first card is simple. Put a few normal purchases on it. Gas, groceries, a small subscription, something you were already going to buy anyway. Definitely not a vacation, not a new TV, not a shopping spree because you got approved and suddenly you feel financially unstoppable, just normal spending. Now, rule number 2, pay the statement balance in full every month. Not the minimum payment, the full statement balance. The minimum payment is where people get trapped. Because paying the minimum keeps you technically current, but it can also keep you paying interest for a very long time. And that's how a small balance can turn into a much bigger problem. So if you're not confident you can pay the card off in full, do not put purchases on that card. That one rule alone can save you from so much pain. Now, rule number 3 is to keep your balance low. Even if you pay in full, I still would not max out my first card. If your credit limit is low, it's very easy for normal spending to make utilization look extremely high. Say you have a $500 credit limit and you put $450 of spend on that card. Now that's a 90% credit utilization. That matters because credit utilization makes up 30% of your FICO score. So use the card lightly, pay it in full, and let time do its thing. You don't need to hack everything in the first month. You just need to build a clean track record. So don't be like 20-year-old me. Start with the right card, follow the 3 rules, and build the foundation. The travel comes later, and I promise you it's gonna be worth it. I have traveled the world, flown first class, and stayed at 5-star luxury resorts on reward points alone, literally only paying the sales tax. But my journey to get there was much longer than it should have been because of my earlier mistakes. And if you're wondering what happened to those 60,000 American airline miles that I signed up for on that flight to Denver, no surprise, I never used them. Now, if you're interested in increasing your credit score, check out the video here, and I'll see you in the next.